Welcome to the Deep Dive. Our mission today, let's go way beyond just the surface summaries. We want to really get into the weeds, dissect the high-stakes emotional warfare happening right now. We're zeroing in on the predictions, the analysis for the week of November 10th through the 14th, but also, importantly, covering the immediate kind of chaotic fallout in the days just before November 5th to 7th.
That's exactly right. Look, if you want to move past just watching the drama unfold and actually start understanding the strategy, behind the betrayals, the surprising alliances, well, this deep dive is where you need to be. We've pulled out the key, let's call them operational insights, that really highlight three major turning points coming up. We're talking explosive temptation in a, frankly, very inappropriate setting. A deep denial that's basically propping up a crumbling marriage, and this really high-stakes family drama that amazingly unites the most unlikely enemies you could imagine.
And we really can't stress this enough. The timing here is everything. The source material we're digging into, it covers the absolutely crucial November sweeps.
Exactly. Sweeps means, the writers are pulling out all the stops. Anything goes. Plot twists get maximized. Consequences are immediate, dramatic. And the smallest details, we're literally talking about a book spotted on a shelf become highly significant. We are right at this critical point where the long-term futures of several major characters hang in the balance. We're talking professional standing, family access, everything. If you miss these nuances now, believe me, you are going to be completely lost when those big Thanksgiving cliffhangers land.
Excellent. Okay, so let's unpack this. We start with the immediate damage report, right? The professional fallout, the personal wreckage from betrayal, basically setting this rather bleak stage for the week ahead. We begin on the corporate side. Forrester Creations, specifically the fashion line Hope for the Future, HFTF. There's a big decision coming down from Ridge Forrester and Steffi Forrester on Wednesday, November 5th. Okay, so the outline flags this key decision by Ridge and Steffi about HFTF. But the core tension seems to be, well, is this decision good news or bad news? The line was a huge success before, wasn't it? Everybody was excited. So what are the forces pulling them in different directions here?
Well, you're right. The line was a massive sales driver, largely thanks to Hope's vision. So a positive decision, that looks like capitalizing on that success. Maybe pouring in more funding, greenlighting a big international fashion show. That obviously benefits Hope, which, okay, can be politically tricky for Steffi sometimes, but fundamentally it's good for the company's bottom line. But, and this is a big but, the corporate drama might actually be secondary here. The real issue looming over HFTF is the individual liability connected to Deke Sharp, who works directly for the line.
Right, and that liability is Deke's choice in partners, Remy Price. The source material doesn't mince words, calls Remy a troubled person, so the business decision could get tangled up in managing professional risk.
Precisely. The big concern is that Remy's documented, well, the source calls it trash behavior, could actually cost Deke his dream job at Forrester. And you have to remember, Deke is ambitious. This job means everything to him. Remy, meanwhile, is probably sensing Deke pulling away because of all this recent chaos. So Remy is desperate, trying really hard to win back Deke's trust. The pressure there is immense.
Let's drill down on Remy's screw-up, though. Why is it so hard for Deke to just forgive and forget? It wasn't just like a bad date or something. Remy committed a major lie by omission. He knew Deke was working side by side with Electra Forrester and deliberately kept that quiet. That's huge.
Oh, it's massive. And that lie by omission, it's often more damaging than a direct lie. It completely shatters Deke's sense of reality, his trust in Remy's judgment, because this wasn't some oversight, right? It was a calculated choice, a choice that created this huge, undisclosed conflict of interest right there in the Forrester offices. Remy basically put Deke's entire career at severe risk just to keep a personal secret.
Which puts Ridge and Steffi in a really tough spot, doesn't it? If they cut Deke loose because his partner is unstable, they might look petty.
Yeah.
But if they keep him, well, they're inviting more drama.
It creates a major corporate liability, simple as that. And Ridge and Steffi, being the top brass, they have to address it. The source material explicitly notes that convincing Deke to stay with Remy now is, quote, easier said than done. Remy's personal failings have basically metastasized into a full-blown crisis at Forrester Creations. It forces management to potentially choose between professional stability and, well, Deke's considerable emotional baggage. And that's why this HFTF decision on November 5th is so loaded. It stops being about fabrics and designs, and it becomes about mitigating human risk tied to a pretty toxic relationship.
Okay, let's shift gears then. From corporate damage control to just devastating personal damage, Friday, November 7th. This brings us to Electra and the emotional fallout from Luna Nozawa's pregnancy. She's described as absolutely brokenhearted. But this feels like more than just temporary sadness, right? There's something deeper going on.
Oh, yeah. This is where we really need to analyze the profound nature of this trauma. The sources actually call it the lifetime problem, and we really cannot overstate this enough for you. The problem for Electra isn't just the next 7 months of Luna's pregnancy. The real problem is that as long as Electra stays involved with Will Spencer, Luna's child will exist, always. That child creates a permanent, unbreakable connection between Will and Luna, forever.
Wow. Okay. So how does that play out in real life?
Yeah.
It's not just a romantic rival anymore. It's a family tie, one that can literally never be cut.
Exactly. Think about the sheer logistical and emotional complexity. This child will be a half-sibling to any future children Will might have, possibly with Electra. It means shared holidays, attending birthday parties, potential custody issues down the road. You never know. And if Will's parents, Katie and Bill Spencer, step up to help raise the child, which is often predicted, right? That just solidifies the Spencer connection even more. Electra would basically spend every significant family event for the rest of her life looking across the room and seeing a living, breathing piece of her boyfriend's history with the woman who betrayed them both. The betrayal becomes, well, it becomes materialized, a permanent fixture in their shared future.
That really does raise the stakes for what Electra has to endure. It completely shifts the dynamic. It's not just a love triangle anymore. It's this long-term psychological burden she has to carry.
It absolutely does. So Electra is facing this massive dilemma. Her first instinct, probably driven by pride, is she doesn't want to give Luna the satisfaction of breaking her and Will up.
Yep.
But that pride is fighting this brutal internal battle with the very realistic question, can she actually live with this? For decades, the sources suggest she's really trying to process the long-term, absolutely non-negotiable presence of this child. And that's just a devastating realization to come to.
And while she's grappling with all this, she turns to someone for advice. She's expected to talk about the Remy situation with Deke, who, ironically, is going through his own romantic nightmare.
Right. And Deke, having just been blindsided by his own partner's lie of omission, is predictably, well, the word used is disgusted by Remy's behavior. No surprise there. The irony, though, is that Electra might feel some pull to defend Remy, maybe because Deke is her brother. But Deke is expected to shut that down, to tell Electra not to advocate for Remy. Deke understands professional liability and personal betrayal maybe better than anyone right now. His advice is likely going to reflect the general feeling that, look, he needs to sort out his own mess before worrying about saving Remy's job or reputation.
Okay, but we need to pause for what I think might be the only moment of comic relief in this whole tragic mess. Deacon's predicted reaction when Deke finally spills the beans about Remy.
Oh, this is just beautiful character work, isn't it? Okay, so picture this. Deke is heartbroken. He's embarrassed. He's professionally vulnerable. He finally tells his dad, Deacon, all the sordid specifics of Remy's deception. And Deacon, who has navigated decades of predictable personal train wrecks, his own and others, he's expected to offer the absolute perfect, cynical, been there, done, that fatherly reaction. Well, I could have told you that.
It's just the sound of a man who's seen way too much drama and basically expects the worst from everyone around him, especially when it comes to questionable romantic partners. It's also a moment that subtly reinforces Deacon's own self-awareness about his questionable choices, which actually, that's a perfect segue, isn't it?
It really is, because the fallout from the previous week is all about poor choices and inescapable consequences. And now we pivot right into the centerpiece of the November sweeps drama.
Right, so the primary focus for you, the listener, really has to be this relationship that's described as a slow burn between Deacon Sharp and Taylor Hayes. And what makes this conflict just so compelling, so juicy, is that it's happening in this incredibly intimate, yet supposedly professionally guarded setting therapy sessions.
Oh, the irony is just dripping, isn't it? And those professional boundaries, they are clearly being tested severely. So on Thursday, November 6th, Taylor and Deacon have a session, and the emotional closeness is just palpable, undeniable. Taylor is described as being genuinely moved by Deacon's words. Now, this isn't just casual flirting, okay? This is a psychiatrist becoming emotionally invested, truly affected by a patient who is opening up about very deep stuff.
And the source material confirms this isn't one-sided. It's a mutual problem. Both Taylor and Deacon cannot get each other off their minds. That speaks to something real, doesn't it?
Oh.
A genuine connection that goes way beyond just superficial attraction.
That's precisely the engine driving this slow burn. But the way they're handling it creates this really fascinating imbalance. Taylor, on one hand, is described as being quite tempted by Deacon. She's consciously aware of the attraction. She feels the temptation to cross that professional line. Deacon, however, is doing the exact opposite. He is, and the source says to some extent, in denial about where this is actually going. He's actively trying not to recognize that this connection is way deeper than friendship.
Okay, but why the denial from Deacon? He's usually pretty impulsive, right?
Yeah.
Why resist something that's so obviously right there in front of him, especially when Taylor's is, let's face it, desirable and available?
I think his denial comes from a place of self-preservation. Maybe even fear of history repeating itself. Remember, the great irony here is he only went back to his current wife, Sheila Carter, because Taylor, his therapist, explicitly told him to try and make his marriage work. So, admitting his feelings for Taylor now, that means admitting his entire marriage to Sheila was basically a mistake, built on this false premise of avoiding Taylor, probably. It means owning the massive chaos he created. The denial is like a defense mechanism, isn't it? To avoid the inevitable explosion when the truth eventually surfaces.
And because Deacon keeps using Taylor as his therapist, the setting itself basically guarantees ongoing temptation. They're getting to know each other on this incredibly emotionally vulnerable level, far beyond what a normal, non-therapeutic relationship would ever allow.
Right, the whole structure of their interactions guarantees deeper intimacy. In therapy, the walls come down, they're discussing his deepest fears, his past mistakes, his hopes for redemption. That level of intimate knowledge creates a bond that's almost impossible to just switch off, especially when you add physical attraction to the mix. It basically means the Deacon-Sheila marriage is absolutely on borrowed time. It's not expected to last, because its very foundation is being undermined by the closeness Deacon shares with Taylor every single week.
Okay, so while they were navigating these very complicated emotional waters, we have our two veteran meddlers stepping into the situation. Ridge and Brooke.
Oh, yes. Ridge and Brooke Logan. They continue to, as the source puts it, bask in their love, but that seems like a side project, really. Their main occupation is being busy meddling in other people's lives.
Yeah.
So, on Thursday, Brooke is expected to bring up her concerns about Deacon and Sheila with Ridge, sharing her worries.
And Brooke's motives here, they're layered, right? It's not just being a busybody. There's strategy involved. If she can somehow engineer Sheila's removal from Deacon's life, well, that directly benefits her daughter, Hope, and her granddaughter, Beth Spencer. Brooke's concern is almost always, ultimately, about protecting her immediate family unit from the chaotic, dangerous influence of Sheila Carter.
Exactly. It's protective meddling, you could say. And during this chat between Ridge and Brooke, the sources suggest the conversation will inevitably drift back to Deke and Remy's drama, which, naturally, gives Ridge the perfect opening to drop in his usual snark.
Yes. What exactly is Ridge predicted to say? And why does it land so perfectly, so typically Ridge?
He's expected to say something cutting, snarky like father like son. Classic Ridge. It's basically Ridge taking a low blow shot. He's suggesting that Deacon and Deke, despite all their differences, both share this villainous taste in partners. It connects Deke's choice of the troubled Remy directly to Deacon's choice of the absolutely nefarious Sheila. It's pure Ridge, never missing a chance to criticize Deacon while simultaneously sort of basking in his own moral superiority, however misplaced that might be sometimes.
Okay, that sets the stage perfectly for the massive game changer that's predicted for the week of November 10th through the 14th. This is when Brooke apparently hears about the mutual attraction, the sparks between Deacon and Taylor.
Right. And when Brooke gets wind that Deacon is crushing on Taylor, oh boy, the prediction is she activates her ultimate strategic mode. She enters ultimate matchmaker mode. And think about it, this is the perfect intersection of self-interest and maybe genuine caring for Brooke. She despises Sheila, obviously, having seen firsthand the damage she causes, but she also does genuinely care for Taylor, wants her to be happy. So pushing Deacon and Taylor together, it solves two major problems at once. It neutralizes the Sheila threat, and it sets up her friend Taylor for a potential romance. The sources strongly imply she's going to become actively involved in engineering situations to push them closer.
And the final piece of this emotional puzzle, the big shift from resistance to reality that happens during the same week with Deacon himself, his realization.
Yes, this is the moment of truth for Deacon. He finally realizes that he and Taylor have more in common than he thought. This signals the beginning of the end for his denial. They move past just the initial attraction, the sparks, and recognize this genuine alignment. Shared history, similar values, maybe. They're both complicated people, right? Both have massive past mistakes, both seeking some kind of redemption, understanding. This realization means the temptation isn't just a professional hurdle anymore. It becomes a genuine potential path forward. And that path, inevitably, leads straight towards the disintegration of the Deacon-Sheila marriage.
Fascinating. A real slow burn disaster just waiting to ignite. Okay, let's shift focus now to the other major high-stakes drama, which is tied directly to the fate of a woman currently behind bars. Okay, we're moving into the saga of Luna, her pregnancy, and the powerful players who are manipulating her fate from the outside. And the key operative here seems to be Sheila Carter. She's adopted this very calculated, entirely strategic approach to managing this crisis.
Sheila's focus is singular, laser-like. It's all about maintaining access to her family specifically, Finn and Hayes Forrester. Everything she does, including her marriage to Deacon, is really just a means to that end. So, on Thursday, November 6th, the sources point to Steffi visiting Il Giardino, and Sheila makes this cold, brutal, but incredibly strategic promise. She tells Steffi her granddaughter, Luna, will not be getting out of prison, despite the pregnancy.
Wow. That is a staggering promise, especially coming from Sheila, the woman who is so desperate for her daughter-in-law's forgiveness. Why on earth is she willing to just throw her own granddaughter under the bus like that?
Because she knows exactly what Steffi wants to hear, and she is willing to sacrifice absolutely anything or anyone that stands in the way of her seeing Finn. Remember, Sheila gained, as the source puts it, a whole bunch of goodwill when she had that heroic moment, trying to save Steffi and Liam Spencer. That goodwill, that's the only currency she has right now with Steffi. She absolutely cannot afford to lose that ground by appearing supportive of a criminal, Luna, who Steffi passionately wants to remain locked up.
So the conflict of interest is crystal clear then. Sheila obviously cannot be publicly supportive of Luna. Any gesture of support, even privately, risks completely undermining that fragile truce she has going with Steffi.
It's an incredibly delicate tightrope walk for her. Sheila has to project this image of stability. She has to seem supportive of law and order, which is deeply ironic for her, obviously, and appear entirely on Steffi's side when it comes to Luna's incarceration. Her ultimate goal is just maintaining the status quo, keep things calm so she can continue those precious visits with Finn and Hayes. She has clearly recognized that Steffi holds all the power in this specific scenario.
And the sources even hint at a potentially shocking moment. One designed purely to manipulate Steffi into thinking Sheila is, well, stable. Maybe even acceptable within the family structure.
Yeah, that's the psychological chess game Sheila's playing. She might actually be bold enough to mention Hope's upcoming wedding to Steffi, maybe even expressing excitement about attending. Now just think about the sheer audacity of that for a second. Given Sheila's history, the shootings, the kidnappings, the endless chaos, the very thought of her attending a major family wedding is shocking. But it's entirely manipulative, isn't it? It's designed to make her seem like this reformed, stable family woman who's now fully invested in Hope's happiness. And by doing that, she hopes to convince Steffi that she, Sheila, deserves to be fully let back into Finn's life.
That level of calculated performance really sets the scene for the week of the 10th through the 14th, which focuses on Steffi's unwavering resolve and the resulting deeply unsettling alliance that starts to form.
Steffi's commitment here is absolute. She apparently vows to keep Luna locked up no matter what. And this shared, intense goal, Luna's continued imprisonment, is actually strong enough to cause Steffi and Sheila to, well, the word used is bond. It's this temporary, purely transactional alliance, maybe an alliance of convenience, where two bitter enemies find common ground in achieving a mutually desired outcome. It's quite something.
Let's talk about the critical stakes for Sheila here. We mentioned Finn and Hayes, obviously, but the sources also connect this directly back to her marriage with Deacon. How does that work?
Yes. This is the crucial connection point. This ties Section 2 and Section 3 together perfectly. The analysis shows that the only way Sheila believes she can keep her marriage to Deacon intact is for Luna to stay behind bars.
Ooh, why? Well, think about it. If Luna gets out, she's pregnant, she's vulnerable, she's likely going to be a constant demanding presence in Deacon's life. That chaos, that responsibility, it would inevitably drive Deacon straight into the understanding, stable, and deeply connected arms of Taylor Hayes. So keeping Luna in prison is basically Sheila's insurance policy against Deacon leaving her for Taylor. It prevents the stability and understanding that Taylor offers from becoming too attractive an alternative for Deacon.
Exactly right. It removes the major source of stress and drama from Deacon's life that would likely motivate him to seek professional and then almost certainly romantic solace elsewhere. And furthermore, she desperately needs to prevent Steffi from hating her again, because that would immediately cut off her access to Finn and Hayes. So this alliance with Steffi over Luna's fate, it's not just tactical for Sheila, it's existential. It props up her entire current life structure.
Okay, let's transition now to the impending wedding of Hope and Liam. A moment that really should be pure joy, but, thanks to the ever-present drama surrounding Sheila, it's anything but simple. They're ramping up the planning, celebrating their love, but even the smallest members of the family seem to be playing a role in the conflict here.
Absolutely. The sources note that Beth Spencer, Hope's young daughter, is getting overly involved in the wedding planning. Now, we often see child involvement in weddings portrayed as cute, right? But here, the analysis suggests her presence has kind of gone beyond cute. It's bordering on her, imposing her will, complicating logistics, and this over-involvement perfectly sets the stage for her rather dramatic intervention.
Which is the ultimate spousal ban, isn't it? Beth specifically asks that Deacon's wife, Sheila Carter, be unwelcome at the wedding. That is a massive emotional bomb to be delivered by such a small child.
It's the perfect yet incredibly cruel delivery mechanism for that news. Hope and Liam are predicted to cave to that demand instantly, no hesitation. Because while the request comes from Beth, it gives Hope and Liam this convenient, unassailable excuse to enforce the boundary they desperately want anyway, keeping Sheila far away from their family in their most sacred moment. They don't want Sheila there either, let's be honest. Blaming the child just allows them to look protective rather than, potentially malicious towards Deacon's wife.
So the stage is absolutely set for the guaranteed outcome. A monumental explosion from Sheila. She's been desperately trying to project stability, win favor, act like a real family member, and now she's been rejected by her own daughter and effectively banished by her granddaughter.
Oh, the prediction is definitive on this. Sheila is going to come unhinged. This ban represents the ultimate failure of her entire current strategy. All that quiet manipulation of Steffi, all that forced stability with Deacon, it gets wiped out in an instant when she's told she cannot attend her own daughter's wedding. We have to assume this meltdown will be highly dramatic, potentially even threatening the wedding itself, because past behavior tells us Sheila doesn't just accept rejection gracefully, she tends to retaliate. Violently sometimes. This is the real ticking time bomb of the Sweeks period.
Okay. Amidst all this impending implosion, though, some relationships are showing surprising resilience. Let's talk about Will and Electra first. That seemed pretty doomed.
Yeah, despite that lifetime problem of Luna's pregnancy, which is arguably the worst possible long-term complication you could throw at a couple, Will and Electra keep fighting for their relationship. This suggests their commitment might be deeper than just, fleeting romance. They seem to be consciously choosing to face this generational, highly personal baggage together, which, okay, it offers maybe a small glimmer of hope that they can actually sustain their relationship through this incredibly impossible challenge.
And another long-term player who seems to be finally finding some much-needed romantic stability. Carter Walton.
Yes, Carter. Historically, his love life has been defined by chaotic, high-stakes romances, often involving the Forrester women, right? But now he's noted as rethinking his relationship with Daphne Rose. The emphasis here seems to be on slowing down, taking a breath, and seriously considering a real future. The sources suggest things are expected to get a lot more serious between them. This implies maybe a conscious choice by Carter to pursue a partner who offers quiet stability, genuine connection, moving away from the constant drama that defines so many of his past loves. Good for him, maybe.
Okay, now for the moment, I think a lot of longtime viewers have been waiting for. The deep-cut historical reference that strongly signals a major character return. This is the Dr. James Warwick Easter egg.
Ah, yes. This is just a masterclass in subtle soap opera plotting. Taylor was seen looking at a book written by Dr. James Warwick, a noted psychiatrist on the show, and then just sliding it back onto the shelf. Now, in the world of high-stakes, long-running soap operas and action like that, that is the equivalent of putting up a massive flashing billboard that says, "Watch this space. Something is coming."
Okay, let's give our listeners the full download on Dr. James Warwick, played by Ian Buchanan, because his ties to the current major players are, well, they're explosive, aren't they? He hasn't been seen for several years. How deep does his history run, especially with Taylor?
Oh, his connection to Taylor Hayes is legendary. Like ancient history legendary. Way back, Taylor was involved in, taking James's V card, his virginity. But it wasn't some romantic night, okay? This happened during a terrifying earthquake where they genuinely thought they were both going to die. James confessed he didn't want to die a virgin, and Taylor, in this moment of panic and maybe profound connection, agreed. That creates a unique and absolutely indelible bond, doesn't it? A shared near-death, deeply intimate experience that ties them together forever in a very unusual way.
An earthquake V card. You're right, that is a relationship origin story that's pretty hard to top. But his connection to Sheila might be even more dangerous today.
Absolutely. James has deep, dark ties to Sheila Carter. First off, he was actually married to her at one point. And they have a daughter together, Mary Warwick, who hasn't been seen on screen in forever. Second, and maybe more relevant now. His last appearance on the show involved this really complex plot where Sheila was blackmailing him. Why? Because he had developed a severe drug addiction. So let's recap. James is tied to Taylor as a first love, a close friend, a near-death confidant, and he's tied to Sheila as an ex-husband, a co-parent, and a blackmail victim. He's tangled up with both women in major ways.
So, given that he is a psychiatrist, and he has these incredibly complex, tangled histories with both Taylor and Sheila, what does the sudden appearance of his book strongly imply?
It is a deliberate, calculated signal from the writers that Ian Buchanan is expected to return to the show. Probably for a significant arc, or at the very least a cameo designed to cause maximum disruption. He is the ultimate historical complication dropped right into the current mess. And because he's a psychiatrist, his return would likely specifically target Taylor's current professional life, maybe her ethical dilemma with Deacon. Or potentially he could resurface to either help or hinder Sheila in her desperate quest for family stability.
Wow. So his return could instantly disrupt all three of the major plots we've just discussed. The Deacon-Taylor temptation, the Sheila-Steffi alliance, and Sheila's marriage itself.
Exactly. His specific expertise is perfectly suited to maybe diagnose the pathology of Sheila's manipulation, or perhaps to advise Taylor on the profound ethical risk she's taking with Deacon. He's not just some old face popping up. He's a specialist whose reappearance guarantees high-stakes trauma rooted in deep psychological insight and, frankly, terrifying shared history. #outro.
Okay, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into these incredibly high-stakes weeks ahead. You should now have the essential knowledge locked down. You know Taylor and Deacon's slow burn temptation is almost guaranteed to ignite, fueled by his own self-imposed denial. You understand that self-serving, uneasy truce between Steffi and Sheila, which is basically keeping Luna imprisoned as Sheila's strange form of marital insurance. And, crucially, you know the exact trigger point where Sheila is predicted to completely come unhinged the moment she gets banned from her own daughter's wedding by her granddaughter.
And the overall relevance here, what you really need to take away, is understanding that in this world, nothing is ever truly over. Nothing is ever really resolved. The past always comes back. These sources show us again and again how every character's history, whether it's professional, romantic, or even criminal, inevitably resurfaces to complicate the present day. Knowing the context of Dr. James Warwick, for instance, makes you so much more prepared for the specific kinds of psychological twists that are likely about to unfold.
So we want to leave you with one final provocative thought to maybe chew on until next time. Given that Dr. James Warwick has these incredibly deep connections to Taylor first love, confidant, and a Sheila ex-husband, co-parent blackmailer, if he returns, how might his profession as a psychiatrist influence the current drama?
Right. Specifically think about this. Which woman will he influence most, and why? Will he use his psychiatric skills to maybe help Taylor regain her professional ethical footing, help her separate from Deacon? Or will he, perhaps reluctantly, get pulled back into Sheila's chaotic orbit, maybe providing her with a new manipulative ally to help maintain her precarious marriage and her access to Finn? His return could genuinely save Taylor. Or it could completely doom Deacon. The past is never really past, is it? And that book on the shelf is the ultimate proof.
You are now fully informed and definitely ready for the explosive weeks ahead. Until the next deep dive, we'll see you soon.